All right, everyone, welcome to Central Coast Disc Golf. This is the Innova Open at the 28th Annual Texas State Disc Golf Championship. This is a Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series. I'm Nate Perkins, and I'm joined here with my good friend and fellow native Texan, Connor O'Reilly. What up, Connor?
Super excited to be here with you guys with this star-studded card in the Lone Star State, and we're starting off. Hole 1 is a tricky one. Actually played as the second hardest on the course, so starting off with one that honestly, playing birdie you feel great, playing par is going to be just fine too. Out of bounds either way. You got to land the disc around here to access this tunnel for a birdie look. We have that mandatory tree you saw there on the left, keeping you to the right. And the more distance you can get on this course, the easier those upshots get, as the low ceiling power shot theme is very prevalent out here.
Welcome everyone to our featured card here at the Innova Open at the 28th Annual Texas State Disc Golf Championship. First on the box, from Mesa, Arizona, representing Discraft, please give a big Texas welcome to Anthony Barela!
Yeah, in a course like this, there's two guys in particular on this card that I think have a great skill set to really attack, and I think this guy you're looking at right here, Anthony Barela, as well as Calvin Heimburg, we know they can rip those drivers on those fast, low flexes, and if you can dial that shot in today, you're going to be able to really put it on repeat throughout a lot of the course.
I mean, we've got three of the most exciting players to watch in disc golf right now.
From Safety Harbor, Florida, representing Innova Champion Disc, let's give a big Texas welcome to Calvin Heimburg!
Yeah, no questions. And then we got Houston local Robbie Burridge rounding out the card. It's going to be a fun day.
Just uncoiling on that one,
Calvin,
Connor.
what?
That is incredible.
Doesn't
That is
even
past the Mando.
doesn't even move the disc right, and he just pushes it up on that hyzer the whole way. That is the best shot I have seen on this hole yet.
I love that they stayed for the catch cam on that one, because that was a laser at the camera.
Yeah, typically guys will beat that big bushy tree in front of the Mando and feel happy with some skip, but Calvin just aired past both of them, no problem.
Ooh, and Gannon missing the initial angle on that one. That needs to check up. Oh, and it finds that out of bounds. What a huge misfire.
Yeah, we did have a sketchy right to left wind here. Probably why Gannon chose for that forehand. And yeah, just missed his angle. Going to be unfortunate error. One of the keys on this track is to keep the disc in bounds.
Is that poison ivy on his shirt, Connor?
It actually is. That is hilarious. Good eye, Nate. I glossed over that, but we are in Texas, and it is in bloom.
And I want to set the setting here we're at Brock Park, Connor. We're just 15 miles from downtown Houston, and we're talking about a greater metro area of over 6.5 million people, but you wouldn't know it if you just arrived here at this disc golf course. We are in a wetland area that's over 4 square miles when you connect it all together, and there are just towering loblolly pines. There's massive oaks and cypress with the Spanish moss hanging down from it.
Yeah, you almost feel like you're transported into Florida, Louisiana, something along those lines. And yeah, you really get a true surrounded by nature vibe out here. Great upshot by Robert.
Yeah, I just rode that tailwind there. Yeah, I mean, we've got it's called the Greens Bayou that's running through this venue, and it really just is a unique place. And it's one of those courses where there's nothing else happening here. You're just completely immersed in this territory.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think those are some of the moments that we remind ourselves why we fall in love with disc golf. You know, we love being outside and enjoying our time in nature, and these courses like this where there isn't as much pollution of noise and stuff, it can be really nice. And Anthony was fortunate to stay in bounds and almost capitalizes for birdie. That would have been a sick way to start the round.
And so this layout for the MPO is the first time that it's ever been played.
Yeah, very rare that we see that on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So a lot of faith put in the tournament crew by the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Gannon with a solid comebacker into that headwind for bogey, but, you know, maybe that's the kind of putt that can get him going.
And AB looking to bounce back after missing the cut last week in Austin.
Did he really? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Such a talented arm on a course where throwing the disc hard is so imperative.
I mean, with the start to the season that he had, he really seemed unstoppable, you know. He's got a new lineup of discs.
We've always known how dangerous Anthony Barela is on the course, and, you know, I think the whole disc golf world knows that when he finds the consistency, his arm talent is going to put him up there with anybody.
All right, Connor, when you initially walked me through this hole, you kind of shared with me that it's got some Goat Hill vibes here on the second. I totally see it. We're going over this little valley. We've got this hazard here that just right in front of the pin, and there is OB that just creeps into this backside. We've got this kind of low ceiling off the tee as well that really makes it appealing for the power forehand.
Yeah, if you throw a bit of both ways
No way.
That out of bounds, as you can see, is barely outside of the circle here, so you do need to be pinpoint with your power level. And like Nate said, the low ceiling, if you have backhand forehand combo, I think that forehand's really going to stand out as the preferred shot here.
Oh. And that was like kind of like an ultimate style release right there, but ton of pace, and what a beautiful forehand from Robert.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of that ultimate style release on both forehand and backhand from Robert, but he's a young kid, good athlete, so able to still get a lot of pace, even with kind of a more nose-up, bouncy style. AB throws a pretty stock-driven shot right there.
And we've known about Robert for, you know, a few years, being from Texas. We've heard the name, but he really came onto the scene last year. I mean, obviously in that playoff with Simon Lizotte, taking Simon all the way to the fourth hole there.
Yeah, such a gutsy performance by Robert, kind of his welcome to the national stage. And yeah, I actually got my first year I went out on tour 3 years ago now. I got to play a practice round, and let's not gloss over that sick headwind right to left.
It's ripping right now.
Calvin just in his element, staying calm. But yeah, I got to play a practice round with Robert a couple years ago, and I remember thinking, like, who is this kid? He's matching shots with me, and, you know, I hadn't really heard of him yet, and that kind of gave me a little level of respect for him. So once I saw him start to pop off on the national stage, I knew the talent was there. And yeah, like Nate said, the hole 2, 3, 4, this little stretch to me really gives me those Goat Hill feels. Big distance, some elevation. And Anthony, his putt's coming out solid so far.
And, you know, it's ironic that we're here on Central Coast because I don't know about you guys, but one of the most exciting tournaments I've ever watched on post-produced coverage was at Goat Hill, featuring Anthony Barela and Thomas Gilbert. I don't know if you recall that battle with the Central Coast slow-mos of AB catching his hat as he lifted himself off the ground, throwing 600-foot drives.
Yeah, when AB pops it out of the hand and his body has to leave the ground because the force of the rotation is too much. Calvin just no effort, it seems, when he putts, and
I mean, he more than anybody, that putt seems to be all in the lever of the arm and the wrist.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like waist up.
Waist up. No legs really.
And here you go, hole 4, big bomber par 4. Avoid that out of bounds line on the right and put yourself somewhere up on top of the hill to give yourself flatter footing You got this big crevice shot here. The basket's kind of level ground to where you're throwing from if you get it up to the flat off of the tee. But this one takes 2 full power shots, and that second one can be hard to be accurate. The steep downslope before the basket can also make a lot of putting angles very tricky here. Robert a bit inside, but you see that speed that he has. He pushes it well up onto the flat.
So I was actually on course for the Disc Golf Network during this round, and this is one of the holes that I fed the broadcast some distances, and Robert, I believe, is going bayonet, but he threw 525.
Wow. Anthony throwing to the downslope? I haven't seen that yet. That is incredible.
That's 575, and that's a nuke that AB is throwing. As we all know, he moved over to Discraft this season, and Gannon is flexing that one out over the OB. Gets a little sketchy toward that tree. That's also 525-foot drive.
Yeah, Gannon maybe feeling some of that pressure to match those long drives, and Calvin unleashing nice flat angle, no worries about flipping. And still, these guys are displaying some massive power off this tee.
And that's 550 feet, and that's in the best possible spot. AB actually threw it too far, and he's going to have downhill footing.
That is mind-blowing.
Probably the only player to do so in the field.
Absolutely. I think AB and Eagle are maybe those 2 guys that have that type of power in the field, but everyone else, we're just playing a slightly different game. Cannon's going to look to hold this one flat most of the flight and have gentle fade. Going to need this one to catch.
Oh, scaring the chains right there. And Gannon actually got lit up by fire ants before he threw that shot. And I believe he said it was his first experience with the fire ant.
Yeah, Houston, Texas is one of those places that is abundant with them. They love this soft, sandy ground out here. And this course, I've noticed they're on every single hole. You gotta not only look out for kind of your pothole run-ups, but you got to look out for fire ants as well. AB having to go run up, downhill, throw up, that can be very tricky to do. But with that young, talented arm, he's able to give himself a putting angle.
That's such a bad spot, I feel like, to land. You
That
can't
is
tell on
scary.
camera. You can kind of tell right here just how steep. Robert's down the hill, and AB's going to be putting right toward that slope. And fortunate to check up right there.
Yeah,
This is AB after that onyx approach into the green.
Oh, what a gutsy bid, and this green is going to show you guys what it does best. It is twice as steep as it looks on camera, and it's pretty steep on the camera. And Anthony is going to have a 70-footer coming back, but it's going to play all of 100 feet of power. Yeah, he's right in that range where, you're making a push to try to win a tournament. Obviously, it's super early, only hole 3, but you just feel like you have to run putts like that. And, you don't really have to, especially day 1. So it can be kind of that mind game that the birdie race of our game can play on you. Yeah, smartly just pitches that one up. He knows if he catches that cage again, it could just be a nightmare. And man, when I think of this course, I feel like Calvin Heimburg just has the skill set to really shred this place. It gives you that sandy footing, those Florida feels, and I'm sure he feels just at home in the humidity. So yeah, I feel like this is one of those places where I definitely got my eyes out on Calvin Heimburg.
Yeah, Calvin did say he felt like it wasn't quite challenging enough for an Elite Series event.
Yeah, I feel like this track's pretty challenging. Definitely, there's some spots where it could get harder, but I think that just shows how good Calvin's game is. And here's a look at that leaderboard. A number of players at 3 through 3, and a bunch of others licking their chops to catch up.
This looks perfect. Off the basket. Now it's rolling. It's headed for the OB. This needs to sit. Oh my goodness. It's safe. Right on the line. She's going to have about a 30-foot putt for the win. Okay, here we go. The putt is up. Boom, it's in. Strong side with authority. What an incredible moment. Yes.
The J is our latest mid-range disc. Okay, where the Mako 3 has got a little bit of instability and the Rock's got a little bit more overstability, the J's right between, and you can throw it backhand, you can throw it sidearm, it's good in the wind.
All right, hole 4, 405 feet, teeing off over this OB. This is a blind pin position here, and with the wind during this final round, it was a headwind right to left, at least for this lead card, and really tough wind. If you release it too flat, it's gonna hold that disc straight and keep it OB. Too much hyzer, it's gonna push it left and find that OB. And you can see that wind kind of straightening out his disc, but it's just enough to skip back in.
Yeah, y'all can see that row of 3 pine trees back there, and you really have to test that second one and almost kind of fly past it and just get hopeful ground play to really park this one. It seems like if you peer the gap, you're almost always left. So this one, very tricky, par 3.
I think that's Destroyer for Calvin Bay and net for Robert. And that is a D2 that's just getting straightened out by the wind there. And this is an Onyx for AB. We're going to see a lot of this disc from him today.
And if you have the power to go fairway here, I think that is pretty ideal. A lot of players are just going driver to try to get that last-ditch effort to skip. But I think the straight push of that fairway on hyzer is probably the ideal way to play this one, although into the headwind, most players feel a little sketchy at that power range. Gannon full send in this one from the DZ. Yeah, I feel like if you're playing the driver here, you're kind of just trying to hit your angle, and then you just kind of cross your fingers, hoping you'll beat that pine tree and that you might get some favorable ground action. Anthony strikes that one in the basket. I love his snake logo that he's got going.
I was about to say, AB kind of going logo-less. No Discraft logo on the shirt or the hat.
Got his own logo going though, so make sure to go check him out.
Man, dang, that's gonna be a double.
Yeah, that putt felt all right, but yeah, these baskets, I feel like the chains seem a little bit light, so I've definitely seen some interesting reactions.
Yeah, first time I've actually seen chains where the interior chains were a different color than the exterior chains.
Yeah,
it's almost like they have a different galvanized
like a lighter
process.
set of outer chains or something. I feel like you can tell though. So there's some putts I've seen that have kind of moved around a lot, and the chains are kind of pop back at you if it's too hard. Just an extra layer to navigate on this windy track, and hole 5 is a dual option par 3. This left side's probably the path more taken, especially with this big patch of clovers on the right, not really allowing that right-hand backhand gap to skip very much. I think a forehand really fades into this one very favorably because you can avoid going down long into that out of bounds. The turnover mid-range can also give you a good look. And AB has the power to just take this right side and clear the ceiling. I haven't seen a shot successfully get up into that range down the right side.
Wow. That's that Onyx again.
Calvin also playing right side. I feel like this gap's been opening up as the week's been going on out here, and wow, these guys are making it look easy. I might have to reconsider my play.
I believe that's Draco for Calvin. Yeah, and that's It's hard to tell on camera just how difficult that right gap is. It's super low ceiling. This is a Chupacabra from Lone Star Discs.
Wow, everyone playing this one.
And that needs to check up.
Curl.
No, that's just mean.
Yeah,
This
that,
really is a mean green, isn't it?
that angle showed how steep that back slope is. And yeah, this section of the course really brings in some nice elevation change, which you don't typically see in the Houston area. So it's fun to get to deal with some of that.
Yeah, pretty mid-range turnover right there.
Robert felt like he had a chance, but from way down just wasn't able to get enough pace on it. Anthony with the step through straight into the chains. It's one of those scary putts for Gannon, and his putt I feel like has been coming out a little bit nose down, so having to make sure to get it up so he can drop down.
His routine gives off the vibe that he's almost like he's nervous, but yet we know he's not.
Yeah, there's like that quickness to his release he has sometimes that makes it feel like he's like, yeah, like he's really clinched up. But I don't know. I think he told me the other day when he gets nervous, he just putts harder, and it seems like it works for him. Maybe something to note for all you guys at home too. If you feel nervous, just let it go. Holding yourself back is most of the time not going to do good.
Clean. Not an ounce of wobble on that step putt.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe Anthony's been putting with those focuses.
All right, hole 6, par 4, just 600 feet. Kind of a blind tee shot here, headed up the hill. You can't quite see, but that OB is pretty tight on that left side. Players are going to be throwing a backhand turnover. And the OB kind of closes in around this green, and depending on how far your drive is, you can be throwing a blind approach into the green.
Yeah, and on paper this hole seems so routine, and it's a distance range that all these players have in their back pocket. No problem, forehand, backhand for most of them. But if you can't get a sight line to the basket off the tee, it makes it considerably harder, and there's enough out of bounds here that this one did play over par, even as a 600-foot par 4 with relatively few things in your flight line.
And then that was Eagle for Calvin. This is FX4 for Gannon, and they were thrown into a slight headwind here, which, you know, some would say is a helping wind for this style of shot. It's going to help your disc turn over. But the risk here is turning it too tight. Oh, that was tight, but he is safe.
Yeah, if you can have a visual on this basket, I think it's such a big advantage. So while it could be nice to go with a safe mid-range off the tee, pushing that fairway driver can really net you an advantage coming in.
Oh, what a gorgeous shot from AB there with the zone. There's that Draco again for Calvin going high hyzer. Oh, did he go around that pine? I think he might have.
He did, yeah. He definitely played wide. Usually that pine you saw him fly wide of. Most players are kind of using that as an aim point, trying to just beat it inside. Calvin's had a couple kind of wide approaches just filter through today so far.
Little misfire. And does he just kick back in bounds?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Maybe a little last week champ love there for Mr. Gannon Burr. And Burridge coming in soft. Nice baseline plastic. It's a soft check skip. You do not want to go long here. There's a wall of trees behind the basket.
I'm going to guess that was a copperhead from Lone Star. I'm working on my mold. bank in the mind, because there's just so many these days, man.
We got to stay on our game. And Gannon has to punch through the wall of leaves and not able to keep it online. It's been a tough start for Gannon so far. But the opening stretch is the hardest stretch of the course, so you got to really come out, play measured, and take the birdies as they come. Don't force anything, at least for the first few holes.
And you know, as much as we've seen Anthony on coverage, I was chatting with him, and he is still on pace to graduate with a business degree from Arizona State. So he's still balancing that, playing and flying back and finishing classes online and in person. So
yeah, it's good on Anthony for making sure to finish out that degree. And I believe he told me he's doing business finance. So it's good to see him doing a little specialization within business as well, not just the general business. And I think AB's enjoying the college experience a little bit as well. That might be part of it.
Oh, and shout out to James Proctor, the Vanilla Gorilla, 6 through 6.
Yeah,
Wow.
James coming out hot. And like we said, that first stretch is tough. I think 4 of the holes play as 4 of the 6 hardest holes on the course, and here we are on the 7th. Definitely a switch up from the rest of the course so far. This one brings in some woods and some technicality. Backhand turnover line for a right-handed player, or a straight pushing forehand can access this green. There's a thin pine down there that you really got to test and try to beat, especially with that backhand turnover. And let's see if Anthony can clear it to the green.
And this is a buzz that Anthony is just going down tempo on, and really, really pretty shot right there. I mean, because with his power, like the buzz, he can throw that thing 450 feet. To see him just kind of slow it down and hit that angle properly.
And I think that's smart. This hole, while it is short, it doesn't offer like an overly high amount of ceiling. So while you could do it with the putter, you most often won't be able to go long with the mid without catching that cross branch. So I think the mid play can be smart. Leave yourself a closer putt.
Oh, and there's that pine that you mentioned.
Yeah, and Gannon just needed a touch more turn out of the hand. Gonna have another long opportunity. Not the start Mr. Gannon Buhr was looking at in his game plan. But still able to connect there. He's had some long putts this round and finally gets one to drop.
We're gonna wait for that slow-mo, and I want your breakdown of what Gannon's doing with the putt, Connor, because oh my gosh.
Calvin matches.
Are you kidding right now?
Cool as the other side of the pillow. Walks it off. No smiles necessary.
I love the way he walks it in, too.
Just that little bit of chin up. You just see the confidence in such a quiet, measured guy. It's just, yeah.
And he's not like smiling or laughing.
Yeah, it's just
He's like, no, it's not like a surprise to him that he made that 60-foot wind putt.
Yeah, Calvin expects it. He knows it.
Well, whose slow-mo are we going to get, Connor? Okay,
Here
what's
we
up
go.
with
Gannon
this?
Buhr,
Left
lot
hip.
of turn with the body, allowing him to swing that disc all the way to the left hip, almost creating a small throwing angle. And he really fires forward with his elbow and lets the arm kind of lever behind it more than most players trust. It creates that extra spin, but also something extra to dial in that can be tricky.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think. Gannon, to me, is one of those players that is going to redefine the way people putt in the future. And it's that drawing from the left hip, but as you said, that kind of lead with the elbow. And, I, before that, hadn't really heard about players, leading with the elbow on a putt. So wherever you guys are at home working on your putt, give it a shot. Try and drag from that left hip and maybe lead with the elbow first.
It'll take some dialing in, but the power is going to come, and you're going to need it on this par 5/8 as well, but the throwing version. And we know this card is packed full of power. If you didn't already know about Robert Burridge's power, you've seen it on display today. he's matching all these guys very well. Anthony once again just cruising past most humans' landing zones and getting to a great spot out there to the left. The way the OB bubbles out there, I feel like it is safer to try to just blast it and get out left. You don't want to flirt with flipping it over to the right here.
So that was 555 for AB with his nuke, and that was 525 for Calvin.
Gannon just late releasing. You can tell he's going with something a little stretchier, trying to really maximize the distance. And these tees are pretty slippery at this point in the day, and you know, it's easy to not trust them and to over-rotate the way that Gannon did.
Yeah, Connor, can you actually talk about the difficulties of the tee pads here at Brock Park?
Yeah, so the turf is a material we don't really see often in terms of the way it's structured. It's the long hairs of turf, but they're kind of matted to the ground in kind of random directions. And I don't know, we played a practice round the other night while it was drizzling, and it just felt like we couldn't trust our feet on almost any shot, and it can really throw your timing and make it hard, especially on these power holes.
Yeah, it's one of the things I heard quite a few of the players talking about is you can't really see it on camera, but the footing out here, not just the tee pad, but in the fairway, the footing it can be so uneven. And this is another hole where the crayfish little homes, the adobe homes that they build.
The tunnels that they got.
The tunnels, yeah.
They got their little chimneys coming up.
A chimney, a crayfish chimney. I like that. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, give it a Google, because it's a unique deal what the crayfish do.
Yeah, and honestly, the footing is not to be overstated. It is really tricky out here. Every lie, you need to map it out. You need to check that there's no potholes in your lie, because sometimes you think it's just a patch of clover or a patch of long grass, and there's actually a 4 or 6 inch hole right there waiting on you, and it can really throw some shots off and make you play more of a kind of upper body arm dependent swing, and that can wear you down throughout the course of a tournament. Again, it just seems a little out of sorts today. I haven't really seen him be not locked in like this for as long of a stretch as we're seeing here. And still at only 1 over par, but yeah, he just doesn't seem comfortable right now.
So the spotter told us that Calvin was the second best after 2 shots, and AB was the best after 2 shots. I mean, AB's got 200 into the pin. He covered 961 feet.
Yeah, saving our best for last card and throwing that Zone OS in. Those things are really beefy, and yeah, kind of faded out a little early on him. Probably still learning the disc. And like you said, if you can get a lot of distance on these first 2 shots, you can really pass the last line of trees that make that approach very hard, and all of a sudden it becomes wide open. So really, really key on that second shot to pass the last line of trees in the fairway, and then it becomes pretty simple.
Oh, Robert.
Nice little right foot step through, getting some love from the local fans.
Man, he must not be allergic to poison ivy, Connor. I haven't seen him even.
Yeah, I'd be itching
itch
all over
himself.
even just wearing that shirt.
What a shirt, though. I wonder
I love
where he got that.
We'll have to ask him. Calvin puts it high, testing that band, but drops it in the way we know he does. Anthony pretty close, but, you know, this with that upshot, you'd like to be bullseye, so see if he can focus up.
And I'd love to hear from you guys. If you would leave us a comment, let us know what course this reminds you of.
Yeah, there's a number that come to mind for me, but I think I kind of envision it as a mashup between the OTB Open property. I think that front stretch, like I said, reminds me of Goat Hill. Chandler and Robert leaning that one in.
Oh yeah, Chandler Kramer on the bag. Believe he shot a 1 down for his opening round. And
if you're a Texan and you know Moody's Disc Golf Ranch, I feel like the footing out here gives me Moody's vibes. And we're finishing off on a very tricky par 3. This one almost feels like a bait hole. You got this out of bounds line on the left, tucking in maybe 20 feet left of the basket here. One of the faster greens you'll see on this side of the course, as there's not a lot of foot traffic out here, but it does get kind of dry. And I feel like if you don't throw the forehand here, it seems twice as hard. And it's so surprising to not see Anthony going forehand on this hole. He has all the power he needs. But maybe that headwind just kind of deterring him from wanting to get too aggressive here. Just understands that not necessarily a hole he has to score on. To me, this one really separates for those power forehand players, being able to access it, not having to deal with the low ceiling.
Oh, Robert going backhand as well. Oh, nice little spin and scoot there.
Yeah, that nose up style of his kind of helped get him some extra ground play there at the end. Gannon looks like he's taking the more direct route, maybe with a mid-range.
Oh, man. He's just having a rough go at it, Connor. I actually haven't. I mean, he's 2 over par, about to be 3 over par on the front 9. Probably hasn't shot 3 over par in a few years.
Yeah,
on the 9.
One of those rare rounds for Gannon. Maybe a little post-win hangover, just, maybe not feeling the same serious vibes at the Silver Series, letting himself get a little too casual. And at this point in the round, I'm sure the pressure's mounting for him to really try to turn it around, and sometimes that can make it all the more difficult. Calvin has to go to the straddle. Puts it up, almost pops back at him, but
this guy, that's going to be 7 under on the front 9, 5 in a row to close it out, and he's ready to go, Connor.
Yeah, you can see, I feel like Calvin and Gannon are almost in like opposite levels of being locked in right now. Calvin just focused on every shot, looks dialed in, and yeah, he's moving on the front 9. 7 down through the front 9 is an impressive score. Probably one of, if not the best front 9s out there. I know we had Proctor at 7 through 7 at one point. I think, I'm not sure if he finished the front 9 clean or not.
Even on the straddle, it seemed like it's all arm and wrist lever, and it tries to jump back out off the pole.
I told you, these chains feel a little light, and yeah, that one almost showed it there.
Pretty enjoyable course to play and to watch, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think it's it really emphasizes power, but also there's a lot of placement, and you have to be accurate. You can't just spray the disc around. And we saw Calvin was the only clean card on our feature card for that front 9. Here's a look at that leaderboard after 9 holes.
And a couple of new names up there. Jaden Rye, Tony Farrow. Jaden's out of Texas, Tony out of Switzerland. And thank you guys for joining us here on Central Coast Disc Golf. I'm Nate Perkins with Connor O'Reilly, and we will see you for the back 9 soon.